Routing Slips, Assembly Work Instructions, Lesson 1. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to: Number 1. Verbally relay the content of the routing slip and the purpose of that content. Number 2. Correctly use the routing slip to identify pallets loaded with finished goods. Number 1. Verbally relay the content of the routing slip and the purpose of that content. Here we have a sample routing slip from assembly. Routing slips provide the operator with the necessary information to perform their task. You will need to become familiar with all parts of the routing slip in order to fully understand what your job requires. At the top is the work order number, which is an internal processing number given to orders for a product. Below the work order number is the unit number. This is the finished product you are making the part for. Under the unit number, we have the part number for the part you are making. Sometimes the part may be flagged for an Initial Sample Inspection Report, or ISIR. This means the part must be sent to quality assurance for inspection. The fourth line is a short description of the part. In this case, we have a combination heater and air conditioner. Then we have the quantity of parts for this work order. This is how many parts you'll be making for this job. Below the quantity is the current revision for the unit. This revision must match the revision noted on the blueprint for that unit. If the revisions on the blueprint and routing slip do not match, tell your lead or supervisor to have the discrepancy fixed and to be sure you are building the correct part. The order release date tells you when the order was placed into the production schedule. The operation shows what step you are performing in the build sequence. The function portion tells you what will happen to the part at that step. In this case, it's packaging the unit. The tooling section lets you know what special tools are needed to make the part. Red dot categorizes these as an RD-8 number for easy reference. The resource lines identify the assets that are used to work on that part. Typically, you'll see the labor required and any machines needed to build the part. The inspection lines are for operators to initial next to the operation that was performed, the date it was done, and the quantity of parts. This is for maintaining accountability in the building process. The comments section adds a little more information to the process. These are usually helpful reminders from leads or other operators. The Deliver To line tells the operator where to send the completed part when they are finished. There are many elements to the routing slip, and it is a lot of information to get familiar with. So be sure to ask your lead and coworkers any questions you may have regarding each part of the routing slip and the information contained in it. Number 2. Correctly use the routing slip to identify pallets loaded with finished goods. After filling a pallet with packaged units, prepare your routing slips for the finished units. In assembly, routing slips are used at the end of the line to provide the shipping department with information identifying the contents of the package. Think of the slip as a name tag for a bundle or pallet of units. Some orders will fill multiple pallets. If more than one pallet is required, you must print duplicates of the routing slips for the number of pallets you need. Ask your lead to print you these duplicates. Mark the routing slips with X of Y, where X is the number of that particular pallet and Y is the total number of pallets for that work order. For example, 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, until you have the required number of routing slips for that work order. You must also write down which work center the unit was assembled in case it needs to be returned. For example, Work Center 803 or Work Center 805. Make sure you leave the routing slip in a clearly visible place for the shipping employee to see. With the routing slip attached, deliver the pallets to finished goods warehousing. There should be clearly labeled areas for where to put the pallets. If you're not sure where, ask your coworkers, lead, or supervisor for help. Before we're done, let's go over the evaluation criteria for routing slips. Number 1. Verbally relay the content of the routing slip and the purpose of that content. Number 2. Correctly use the routing slip to identify pallets loaded with finished goods. This concludes the lesson on routing slips. Assembly Work Instructions, Lesson 1. If you have any questions, be sure to ask your supervisor or coworkers for guidance. And thank you for your contribution toward making Red Dot a better company.